Thank you for joining XR Home, which is India's first AR VR MR podcast. And today I'm really stoked to have Mr. Sairam Sagiraju, co-founder of Meraki VR. Now, Meraki VR happens to be one of the first, I believe, virtual reality content startup in the country. So, Sairam, welcome to the show. When I got into virtual reality, there was, I think, early 2016. I think there was only around a handful of companies. There was close to, I think, around 5 or 6 startups in the country. You were one of them, and I guess and I'd reached out to you at that point of time. So yeah, it's just 5 years. The entire ecosystem has grown from 5 or 6 startups. I think in the country today we have around 2,000 plus startups. So I'm really excited for the ecosystem. But yes, please do give an introduction, who you are, what you do, and what got you interested in virtual reality audience.
Thanks a lot, Eddie. It's great to meet you again, and I really miss your events that happened pre-pandemic. Hope things get better and we are able to meet again in one of your events. Yes, so to introduce myself, I'm a filmmaker, storyteller first. The way I look at it is that VR is just another medium for me to tell my stories. And we have a very interesting beginning. I was working with housing.com. The culture in housing was such that there was always room to innovate and find new solutions. And that's how the team in housing was researching about various technologies to capture spaces. And I was working in a team that was looking at stereoscopic VR, stereoscopic 3D, sorry. And then there was another team that was working on VR. And that's how, that was the genesis of I would say a collective interest there in the team to do something about it. And soon after, yes, we came out of housing and I set up Meraki VR with my co-founders. And it's been a great journey since then. There was one moment that did it for us. It was my first VR experience then. Again, was in housing, and it was Jurassic Park in VR, and I strapped this headset. It was a Samsung Gear VR then. That kind of did it for me, and we got thinking about how we could use this medium to tell stories.
When I first put the headset on, I think that was late 2015 when I did that, and I was blown away. That whole idea of being in the story excited me. I was always a curious kid, and when I got to know that this is 2015 and in another 20 years what it could do would get magical, and that's the reason I got into VR, because knowing that this technology is capable of putting you into the content where you will start interacting, touch feeling content. You said something, you said VR is just another medium. Somehow I do not agree with that, because storytelling has taken over 100 years, from black and white to color, from even the sound evolved from mono to stereo to Dolby to surround sound, stuff like that. Lumiere Brothers created the first visual content. It was a black and white film called Arrival at the Train, and the visual is very simple. The camera is on the train station, and you see this train which is coming from far into the station. This was shown in a cinema in France, and everybody was excited because it was the first of its kind. The theater was jam-packed, and everybody was waiting for what's going to happen. This is the first theater visual content or moving content of that point in time. They were excited. The curtain rolls open, and they see this train in the distance, and it's coming. And this is the first time the audience is seeing something like that. Those guys, they actually thought that the train is going to crash into them. And I think that is the power of storytelling. And that's what happened 100 years. So I am super excited for virtual reality, what it can do right now and in the near future. I would like to hear it from your mouth. Why virtual reality? Is it just another medium, or is it the medium which is going to be the future of storytelling?
So when I say it's just another medium, there's no way of discounting the power of virtual reality. That's something that I always agree with. I would always agree with you, because the power of virtual reality is something that no other medium can come anywhere close, right? because the sense of presence is something that only this medium can offer. And this is something that I repeat very often. And with you mentioned about 100 years of cinematic history. And if you go even earlier, there was paintings, photographs, and then even caveman paintings, right? So they all use surfaces and a frame. And even this Zoom call that we're doing, it's bound by a frame. And for the first time, there's no frame. We're entering a frame to live that creation, right? And suddenly, when there are no bounds to the visual, and if you're living in that space, obviously it's going to be overwhelming, at least for the people who watching it for the first time, and even otherwise for people who have a daily habit of watching VR, they're still forgetting their reality, their immediate space, cutting off from their immediate surroundings to enter a new space. This is something, this kind of immersion is something no other medium can offer. So I'm really excited about the possibilities of VR, the future. So what we've done is only narrative, cinematic VR mostly, and a few interactive projects. But the future also, a glimpse of the future is also looking very exciting with volumetric video and other interactive forms of immersive content. So it's going to be exciting, and we're really looking forward to it.
Now, again, my earlier question, when you start so early into the ecosystem, there are a lot of cons. There are a few pros, but there are a lot of cons. Narrate us your journey of the goods and the bad of, your content creation or storytelling journey with Meraki VR.
So especially with virtual reality, not just with Meraki, but I would sure many content creators would agree with me. There's been a lot of highs and lows in the journey of VR in India and across the globe. Because when it started, there was a lot of excitement. Everybody wanted to do it. Many marketing teams just wanted to include it in their scheme of things because it was new and because the novelty factor. But of course, something that depended only on the novelty factor was bound to lose its way somewhere, and people would lose interest in it. Many filmmakers overlook the grammar of this medium. This demands that you approach it as a completely new medium with a new language. What with conventional filmmaking is not going to hold good for most part, right? So I think, so some of the underwhelming first experiences were the biggest enemy for the medium. And after that, yes, of course, it's not really gone to the masses, this medium. And to be honest, if we all ask ourselves, is it a daily viewing habit? We spend considerable amounts of time on our smartphones, other devices, on the TV. But are we spending enough time on the headsets every day? At least I am not. I'll be very frank about it. The only time that I get to watch is to find something new, to present to our clients, or to watch what we've created. But as a viewing habit, that still hasn't happened to me. Until and unless that happens, where there are more headsets with the masses and VR is a daily viewing habit, then I don't really see it growing exponentially. Of course, with the pandemic, some real use cases have come forth. In fact, you see these headsets behind me. We had to order about 150 odd Oculus Quests because of the pandemic. One of our clients came to us wanting to deploy VR for their annual meeting. And this was the first time, thanks to the pandemic, their sessions were happening on a meeting platform. And for the entertainment pieces, they really thought out of the box. And we were able to deploy some stunning VR pieces to people around the world. And we managed to ship all these headsets, different parts of the world, to people who were attending this meeting. And the experience was just very, very satisfying for us. The feedback that we got, not just from the client, but also the participants of the meeting, kind of gives us the validation for the medium itself and also for the work that we do. So yeah, from the highs to lows, and the pandemic showed some hope for some real use cases. It truly has been a roller coaster ride.
You brought up a very interesting insight that even today, virtual reality is not a daily viewing device because of its various problems. I mean, it's there is no awareness. There's lack of awareness and lack of education about what this device can do for individuals and for businesses. The price points, its current drawbacks, the and things like that. There are various problems, but somehow, from my perspective, I'm not just trying to paint a very positive image of it. I know that there is this technology which has had all those problems, and I think that is a very natural thing for any technology which is in a nascent stage. I think we are over expecting out of artificial intelligence, over expecting out of AR, VR, MR, over expecting out of synthetic biology, IoT, and so on and so on and so forth. But all of these technologies, for the first time in human history, I think, have the potential to give us godlike powers in its own ways. Like synthetic biology, you can actually tinker with the human genome code and create designer babies, and that's just scratching the surface. And what's going to happen later is you don't really know. Virtual reality, mixed reality, AR will help us enter the 3D world, and eventually we will maybe all like you gave a fantastic use case. Because of the pandemic, people have figured out that you don't need to step out of your office space. You could do your conferences and meetups from the comfort of your home. You can miss the traffic. You can miss the pollution. You can miss the stress of traveling from one place to another, doing these client meetings. You can do that from work, and not just a flat screen. You can do it in a way where you feel that the other person is right in front of you. So those are the plus points. And yes, I think with Apple device or people have been thinking that once Apple comes in, everybody is going to wear glasses. Like hell, yeah. Like why? Why would anybody? I mean, yes, Apple's a great brand, but why would anybody have a glasses full day? So yes, it starts with a compelling narrative and a compelling use case. So both have to come together, and I think there are compelling narratives and there are compelling use cases also, which has not come together for various reasons. But now, because of the pandemic, people have realized that, this tool or this technology can solve like remote healthcare, remote education, remote work, virtual reality, I think augmented reality, mixed reality, all of these emerging technologies are like monsters. And we as humans need to use them very carefully or help it grow naturally rather than try to push it too much, because it could grow into monsters if we don't, because technology is a double-edged sword. So coming back to the entertainment space, you have been forefronting the space. You have created content for enterprise. You have created content for Bollywood. You have created content for the sports across. Could you share a couple of experiences that you have built, you're really, really proud of, and what is coming next?
So some of the experiences that we've been proud of is mostly from the storytelling that we've done with Bollywood. Because that gave us a little more freedom. Apart from the Bollywood experiences, it's mostly corporate work, a little bit of sports, yes. So the work that we did with the film industry is something that gave us the freedom to push the boundaries of this medium. The House Next Door was a feature film that released some time back, a couple of years ago. VR lends very well to horror, and again, the Hindi film industry or Indian film industry's first experience with VR was also with us. That was the Radhika Apte star or Phobia, again a horror film. But the work that we did for The House Next Door, though it's been a few years since we produced it, still pretty close to my heart. In terms of the effect that it created, that also made us pretty happy. It went to the London Indian Film Festival in the VR section. And apparently, the organizers later told me that there were screams, there were so many screams at the venue that they had to move the entire VR piece to an indoor closed room because it was disturbing everyone else in the festival. So, and again, the sports experience that you mentioned was for the India-Pakistan match in Bangladesh. It was the Asia Cup. Nothing can get bigger than an India-Pakistan match. And again, history was written then because that was again the first VR experience of an international cricket match. When the batsmen were taking stands at the pitch, I was there with the camera in the middle, in the Shere Bangla, about tens of thousands of people shouting. Very surreal experience. And the umpire had to signal saying that the first ball will be bowled in a few minutes. And me and the broadcast cameraman had to run back to the edge of the field. So again, these are really highlights of our journey. And what's next? A little bit of a dampener. I had to get back to conventional filmmaking, what I used to do before getting into VR. For about 3-4 years, I did only VR. That's something that you would have known. But I went back to creating music videos. I come from that background. So yeah, a couple of interesting TVCs and music videos that I'm working on. And on the VR front, it's another client project that we're collaborating with a design company in Chennai to come up with a VR experience of their space.
Lovely, lovely. I was privy to, I've seen House Next Door. You, in fact, showed it to me. I think, we were at Whistling Woods, and it's a beautiful experience. I mean, it's a simple but done. It's so. I think in life there are simple things. It works beautifully. It can be magical. And I wish. I mean, later on, if you can share, if it's okay, then maybe I can share it to my audience also. So because that'll be fun. So yes, I think. I also started my journey as with virtual reality as creating content. My first content was for creating walkthroughs for a luxury resort project. But then eventually I had to build my own stereoscopic VR camera because in 2016 most of the VR cameras at that point of time was way too expensive. I put my funds and we built our own 16 camera rig, taking some open source code which was on the net from Google's Odyssey, the 12 camera rig. But it's been an exciting journey. Post pandemic, it's almost been over a year. The theaters, nobody's getting into the theaters. We don't really know what's going to happen in the future, but you see that there's a gradual move to OTT. There are production houses who are releasing their movies on OTT. And then there is Jio, which is coming in and they're building their virtual reality headset, the augmented reality headset, and there's Facebook and Microsoft who are going to be coming up with the AR, VR, MR headset. Do you think the transition, which has been from like a theater to an OTT, do you see that in the near future, possibly moving to an HMD, an AR, VR headset? Because as soon as we have an headset, this is possibly maybe in the near future, maybe 10 years or maybe beyond, where we have a headset which the price point is comfortable for a consumer, where the entire world could be a screen. Do you see a transition happening from theater to OTT to like a head-mounted device?
Well, my guess is that it would happen. The question is when. Of course, that depends on big tech companies pushing for adoption. Like you mentioned, Apple getting into this and people wanting to have these headsets, right? So now, of course, a lot of this is going to be augmented reality. how much of immersive VR content, entertainment content, is something that people would consume is I think a good question to ponder about. I think I'm quite positive that AR is going to be part of our lives as a tool that makes things simpler, many tasks simpler for us. But yes, I think VR would ride pretty piggy bank on the deployment of AR on a large scale. So that's my belief. And the pandemic has definitely speeded up a few things. Um, we all remember how distributors were very against the idea of releasing content on OTT platforms before. But yes, that's changed now. And I think that change is here to stay. And similarly, the entertainment industry has taken such a beating because of the pandemic. I've known a lot of people who had to shut shop because of the pandemic, right? It's really sad how things have turned out for some of them. And people who were dependent on ground experiences like concerts that depend on locations. I think the pandemic has given a great opportunity for them to think about how they could use the new immersive virtual mediums to, put content out. So what I would like to see in the near future, and I think it's possible, is to get people to collectively experience, say, either sports or a concert from the confines of their homes. So for that, yes, a lot of things have to come together, whether it's volumetric VR or deployment of headsets. And I'm sure with the Quest 2, a lot of these are going to be possible. It's such a delight to watch or experience content on the Quest 2 because the computing power that that something a headset like this without having to tether to a PC is something that's commendable. And this is what I feel Facebook was working towards this all this while, and they finally have it. And whatever they released before this was watered down versions because they didn't want to lose the market share. And I think this is where they were working towards. You have this all-in-one device without having to tether to anything, and then yes, and it's great. You're getting finally you have a room scale VR experience without the big equipment.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There was a time where everything was tethered to a computer and you trip and fall. And today we have a six-off headset which is untethered at a price point which is really, really unbelievable. And this is just 2021. Maybe in the next 5 or 10 years, when things starts maturing a little bit more, when 5G kind of converges, AI kind of matures, I think we'll get into a very exciting world. There are already people who are tinkering around with interactive storytelling, which is AI driven. There is Netflix who actually with Black Mirror experimented a little bit on interactive storytelling with Bandersnatch. There is immersive theater which is really leveraging virtual reality and Unreal Engine, and then there is your location-based virtual reality entertainment centers and volumetric videos and haptic feedback. How do you see all of these technologies impacting entertainers? How do you see this, not just the content creators, but how do you see this impacting maybe the monetization and the distribution of content?
Of course. So when something as disruptive as this happens, I think the market will figure these things out for sure. Of course, I'm no expert to comment about how distribution or monetization would take place, but I'm very, very positive that people will, once the market is ready and once there's great content to be experienced and once the headsets are much more easily available, things will come together. And I'm sure there's great potential for people, for content creators and for distributors to, monetize content. So far, everything that we've made was, so we've been able to sustain ourselves purely because of client work, being in the B2B space. And as soon as B2C happens with these mediums, I'm sure the market will figure it itself.
Traditional content creators who are building content on the 2D flat platform, would you nudge them to explore and experiment with immersive content?
So as long as there's no market or no revenue from this medium, I think some big names are going to keep themselves away from it. As soon as there's a market, I know for sure that people are going to jump in. But yes, there's so much talent out there. I wish they spent a little more time. I think for that, it's to do a lot with the environment that we have here. People, I don't want to sermonize, but it would be great if people actually take time off to experiment, not expecting anything out of it. So I think that mindset is required for big people to come on board to create something new.
Right. Yeah. But, if you see, somehow we always cry that, oh, India does not have any big companies, tech companies. Oh, India does not have great filmmakers like the West. But I think it's plain to see the reason we don't have that is because the ecosystem is not there. The desire to be bold and brave is not there. Everybody is comfortable with what it is. That's the reason if you see most of the innovations, whether it's in the entertainment side or business side, it's all happening in the West, and we try to ape that. But I think the newer generation is more brave and bold, and I hope that they adopt and adapt the new, because post the pandemic, I think it has compelled us to look at all these technologies, and everybody is now, I think, understood that how technology will play a huge role in each and every business verticals. What would you say to the Bollywood or the advertising industry? What, according to you, that you have learned over the years that that they, if they want to adopt or experiment with AR, VR, MR, that these are at least the use cases which will definitely bring in the money? What would you, where would you point the Bollywood creators or the ad agencies?
I would say something like this needs patrons. Now, I was just reading the papers. Amitabh Bachchan is so invested. I think people got him interested in preservation of film, right? So you need patrons, you need a push from the biggies. Now you have Iñárritu's refugee experience in the US. Right. So when you have such a big filmmaker doing this, it helps the medium. With the power of their celebrity status, they can pull audiences towards a medium. So anything like this would need patrons evangelizing in a big way from established players, both from the film industry and even from advertising, right?
Right. I think you rightfully pointed out that you need some of the big players kind of to be bold and brave and get into, understand what it can do and leverage this technology and bring it to the larger public. Because in India, Bollywood is a religion. Sports is a religion. And even if those two mediums, if we kind of leverage and take this technology, I think it would do us a lot of good. Do you see that it is getting more and more challenging for a creative person to sustain in the industry? Because there was this time, since I used to play for a rock band, I used to buy these LPs. From LPs, it moved on to CDs. From CDs, it moved on to cassettes. But we used to purchase the music, and we used to really pay a lot for purchasing the music. Then came internet. And for all of those who did not understand the importance of technology, those people got completely disrupted because music got digitized. And then suddenly, no one was willing to pay for music because it was out there on the internet free. So many OTT platforms. Viz at this point in time is almost giving content out there for free. There has been challenge for monetizing for them also. Do you see this creating a longer or deeper impact for content creators in the coming time? Do you see technology playing a role in, well, two ways where it could make this problem worse, because there is already artificial intelligence which is creating music, there's already artificial intelligence which is doing basic video editing and stuff like that. Could blockchain could play a role? Could this new NFT, non-fungible tokens, come in and play a role? So what I'm trying to say, do you see technology playing a role for content creators or the creatives to sustain and thrive going forward?
So we still haven't reached that stage where the content that VR filmmakers create is being consumed at a consumer level. That still hasn't happened. But when that happens, and if it's worth watching, and if people want to watch, I think we will definitely find a way to monetize it. And with conventional film as well, though there's been piracy, the platforms have figured that out. So I think that's come down in a big way, and people are able to monetize despite the challenge of piracy with the conventional mediums. With VR, because the deployment is not as simple as conventional film, I'm sure it's easier to safeguard our interests and rights. So it's going to be a while before people start to, get access to this content without having to pay. So I'm kind of confident that we'll figure ways out to safeguard our interests when it comes to deploying our content on a mass scale.
Right. Yeah. So I think there are people working on frameworks which could protect content creators, because for the longest time, I think the world has started to believe that content should be available free. When you work, when you do a 9 to 6 job, you know that you end up getting paid. But when you create content, it's like you're taking this shot in the dark, and you're hoping and wishing that it will pay you. I do understand that because of the content being democratized, there is a lot of content which is creative, which has, I mean, nobody wants to watch. But then if you pass through all those billions of content which is being created on a regular basis, there is some fantastic content which is being created. And I think we need a framework which protects every content creators from day one itself. If the content, if anybody is viewing it, that person better pay for it, because it should be, is what I feel. And I feel that you need a framework for that to come in. Otherwise, I think, there will always be there'll be a certain section of people who will be exploiting the creatives. Do you see a framework like that coming in the near future?
I'm not sure about that, because I'm not really invested so much in terms of deployment. But this is something that I've been thinking of. When you buy a ticket to an event, you're paying money, right, to attend a concert or a cricket match, or even to watch a film. Now that you're not able to do it, at least now things are opening up post after the restrictions were lifted. But there are people who are still in two minds about going to the theaters. Now, what about the ticket being replaced by a headset? If people could pay, the ticket the ticket would come with the headset being delivered to your place. You watch and then you return. Maybe that's a new business model.
That is obviously, it's a radical idea, but you never know, because I think the world goes round only and only when we are happy, and happiness comes with, when you wake up in the morning, you listen to a nice song, when you watch something, and that is something which stays with you for the rest of your life. That's the power of content. It can create revolutions, but somehow we have not been nurturing our content creators, and I hope that we start doing this. And I hope that we start creating, nudging, at least nurturing these future content creators, because there are so many interesting stories in the world which is waiting to be told. Do you see, do you see a full feature length virtual reality Hollywood or Bollywood film coming anytime soon?
It would happen, but I'm not sure if it would happen soon. It may take its time, but I'm sure it's going to happen.
What comes next for Sairam Sagiraju? What comes next for Miraki VR? And paint a picture. I know you said you don't like speculation, but where do you see AR, VR, MR in this decade?
Thanks to the pandemic, a lot of things changed. I was talking about this experience of people remotely watching our content on event day. So what it means, why I'm narrating this experience, is because it holds a little bit of hope for the future. It is possible to remotely deploy VR experience to a layman at the same time. So this is something that we did, and we're very confident, and it went off really well. Out of the 150 odd headsets, about 2 headsets didn't work, largely because the user did something that he shouldn't have. So yeah, that apart, the rest of the people, most of them had their first VR experience, and most of them were above 45 years of age. So it goes on to tell that the medium is pretty intuitive to figure out, and quite simple to deploy. And it is possible to deploy a VR experience on a large scale to multiple audiences at the same time. And once you have people exploring a new business model and pushing content by introducing this, there is hope that so once it happens on a large scale, I'm sure there's more to follow, and I'm quite optimistic that things will change.
Lovely. Thank you, Sairam. Thank you for talking to us, sharing your insights. I think, it's an exciting space, and maybe it's the 2D platform and the VR platform will merge together. Maybe the content creators will actually start monetizing, and maybe the future of content will be superb. So I'm exciting for the space, though I know that this technology comes with so many challenges and drawbacks. But we, as the front movers, understand the pains and the pleasures of being vested in this technology. And it could be my biased view because I'm invested in the space. But yes, I really honestly believe that this is the future of content, and eventually, in maybe the coming decades, we will not need a TV. We will not need a theater. The world will be a screen. On that note, my listeners, if you like what you see in here, please press the subscribe button. And until next time, see you guys. Bye-bye. Thank you, Sairam. Really appreciate this.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Eddie.